Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Umberto Giordano's Andrea Chenier, which I saw last night at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. The conductor was Michele Gamba. The production was done by John Dew. The sets were done by Peter Zucora. The costumes were done by Jose Manuel Vazquez. The assistant director was Gerlinda Pelkovsky, and the chorus master was Jeremy Bynes. I mainly knew this opera through its signature, let alone popular arias. The titular hero, Andrea Chenier's Un bi bell'azzurro spazio, Si fui soldato, and his penultimate aria, Come un bel di maggio, which have become staples for many spinto and dramatic tenors. In fact, this has attracted the likes of Franco Corelli and Charles Craig, just to name a few of the very famous Andrea Cheniers ever. Then you also have Carlo Gerard's Nemico della Patria and Maddalena di Coigney's show-stopping La Mamma Morta. On top of that, this opera was based on the life of the poet André Chenier, who himself was also executed during the French Revolution when he was 32 years old. On top of that, there are also some real-life figures that have found themselves in this opera, such as Jean-Baptiste Taillon, who served as the basis of Carlo Gerard, and Fouquier Tinville, who himself was a well-known figure in the French Revolution, especially when it came to people being called for their executions. This is an opera that had something rather special in my life growing up when I was getting into opera. And this is an example of one of the renowned Verismo operas that has had a major boom, especially if you need a star tenor, a star baritone, and a star soprano. The basic plot of this opera goes like this. This is set between 1789 to 1794 during the French Revolution. The de Coigneys are having an elegant party with the Countess and her guests all dressed to the nines, as well as her young daughter, Maddalena di Coigny. However, there's someone who is not so happy about the festivities, and that is the family servant, Carlo Gerard, whose father has been working for the de Coigneys for several years and is aging. This is something that he cannot stand anymore, and something that feels like it's such an injustice for the common folk to bow down to the whims of the aristocracy. Then comes the poet Andrea Chenier reciting his improviso to the guests, and even catches the eye of Maddalena di Coigny, as he's also enamored with her too. However, not everything seems to go all happy, let alone all joyful in the de Coigny house, as there is this class divide between the common folk and the aristocracy, although the Countess doesn't really seem to mind what on earth is going on outside their gilded walls. Cut to the rest of the opera, and Carlo Gerard has found himself being a leader for the people who are for the French Revolution, especially when he sides himself with Robespierre, and he also tries to make initiatives to further overthrow the aristocracy. Maddalena di Coigny also enters the fray, as Carlo Gerard also reminds Andrea Chenier that there is a woman that's called Speranza. Even Roucher, Andrea Chenier's friend, also warns him that there are going to be those people who are going to go after him, as does Carlo Gerard, who also warns Chenier that Fouquier Tinville is so keen on executing him. Although Andrea Chenier and Maddalena di Coigny managed to find love with each other and really affirm their romantic feelings for each other, Carlo Gerard also ends up being nearly wounded. But after that, he gets healed. He enlists more people who are interested in supporting the French Revolution, including having an old woman by the name of Madelon needing her grandson to join the cause. And speaking of which, even Madalena de Coigny's maid, Bercy, has found herself as a sort of vivandière. She's found herself to engage in a lot of the fancy things alongside the spy, L'Incroyable. And L'Incroyable is also keen on everything that is going on with Andrea Chenier and all of his plans in terms of what's to come. Not everything turns out to be happy for Madalena de Coigny. She's lost her home, she's lost her mother to the war, and she feels so alone at this point. And now Andrea is about to be executed, all thanks to a mandate that Carlo Gerard has signed that has warranted for his death. Feeling remorseful, Carlo tries to bribe with all of the executioners and the prison guards to let Andrea free, but it's all too late. One of the condemned, a woman by the name of Idia Legre, is also about to face the guillotine. However, Maddalena, wanting to be by Andrea's side, decides to take over Idia Legre and takes over her name too. This means that both Andrea Chenier and Maddalena di Coigny find themselves at the face of the guillotine, and although both of them are about to be executed, they end up being united in love and a lot of self-sacrifice too. So this opera really does combine a lot of the grand and overly exciting elements found in grand love stories consisting of a tenor and a soprano being passionately in love with each other, but with also having the baritone as the third wheel. However, the baritone role of Carlo Gerard is not an all-out villain. He's a conflicted man who wants to support his causes, but has also found himself destroying not only Andrea's life, but also realizes that him coveting Maddalena was something that was selfish until Andrea and Maddalena face the guillotine. With all my expositions of Andrea Chenier out of the way, a few words about the production and costumes. What's so fascinating about this production is that it is set in a sort of representation of France during the 1780s and 1790s. There's a lot of color being used for the aristocracy, being full of mauve or something that's pinkish, something that's slightly brighter to illustrate the elegance and the decadence of the de Coigny's household. And it's something that is bright and gay, but something that is completely devoid of the commoner's life that is so hard and so frustrating to live through. That is until there's an uprising, a literal uprising in which the platform tilts and the commoners have a sort of revolution against them and ransack the de Coigny's household. Does the whole atmosphere change into something that's darker? And as the opera progresses, there is that sort of darkness that shows the dire situations of these commoners, but also the frustration and the ire that the people who want this revolution want to happen, but also feel that they need to be beacons of change right now, even with this direness happening. On top of that, the ending is actually quite fascinating in terms of both Andrea and Maddalena being prepared to face the guillotine, and the curtain closes with the shape of a guillotine, but who remains on stage but Carlo Gerard, looking through the manuscripts written by Chenier in remorse and in shock, thus showing that even when Andrea Chenier and Maddalena di Coigny have died through the guillotine, their memories still live on, and Andrea's poetry still remains and survives. And the costumes are absolutely gorgeous from all the singers, especially when it comes to the di Coignys and the matriarch, La Contessa di Coigny, looking absolutely elegant. And you could definitely tell that there is that sort of vivacity and pomp that is intricate in the court, but also combined with what the commoners have to go through. Equally gorgeous was Bercy's costume. After she serves her time as the di Coigny's maid, does she become a lot more fancily dressed. And I just have to say that the entire production and costumes had that intricacy and exquisite eclecticness that I was thoroughly amazed with everything that John Du's production of Andrea Chenier had to offer. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Martin Muehle as Andrea Chenier. Andrea Chenier has attracted a lot of tenors, such as Beniamino Gigli, José Soler, Mario del Monaco, Franco Corelli, Richard Tucker, Charles Craig, and Gianfranco Cecchelle, unless they forget about Giuseppe Giacomini and a whole lot of spinto and dramatic tenors. I say that this role has been for spinto and dramatic tenors because he not only needs to have that sharp edge evident in roles such as Tannhäuser, Rienzi, Tristan, Siegfried from both Siegfried and Götterdämmerung, but also that round quality evident in Otello, Sanson, or even the likes of Aegisth and Herodes, thus showing that he can be sung by not only a spinto tenor, but also a dramatic tenor or even a heldentenor. Just go ask the likes of Mario del Monaco, Charles Craig, and Franco Corelli, who were all excellent Andrea Cheniers, especially where Corelli is concerned, given his expertise with the role, let alone experience and physique de rôle in this particular character. What you really need is a tenor who can be both tender, but also totally engaged in terms of virility, roundness, richness, and incision. And Martin Muehle did all that and more. I always insisted that Martin Muehle is an amalgamation of Mario del Monaco, Franco Corelli, Carlo Bergonzi, Gianfranco Cecchelle, and a little bit of Nunzio Todisco and Giuseppe Giacomini. All of these Italian tenors that he embodied, he managed to do extremely well with the Italianità of this character, and do so with such a metallic tone, a formidable vocal presence, and heaps upon heaps of stamina that I was left on the edge of my seat every time he got up on stage to pour his heart out and just have a ball with Andrea Chenier, both vocally and theatrically. That is just how much Martin Muehle has won me over as a complete singing actor, complete with squillo, complete with a lot of virility, masculine charm, and heaps upon heaps of endurance. Sure, there were some occasions where he did kind of struggle in certain notes, but regardless of that, I could forgive them. And even when he showed a little bit of fatigue in the very final act, when he launched his high B, he never surrendered. He was able to continue to be such a charismatic, formidable, and thoroughly brilliant singing actor that I could never ever take my eyes and ears off of him. That is just how much I cherish Martin Muehle, body, soul, and most importantly, voice, because of everything that he provided so exceptionally well, and his vocal assets remain strong as ever. Carlo Gerard was Roman Burdenko, and Carlo Gerard is just as coveted as Il Conte di Luna, Nabucco, Kurvenal, Fritz Kotner, Amfortas, Alberich from Götterdämmerung, Barone Vitello Scarpia from Tosca, Michele from Il Tabarro, Le Grand Prêtre de Dagon from Samson et Dalila, and Escamillo from Carmen, because you need a dramatic baritone who can be able to sing over an orchestra, but also combine those ambiguous sides of Carlo with some of those sides where he feels kind of romantic, kind of sad, and kind of nostalgic. There are some parallels between Carlo Gerard with the likes of Tonio from I Pagliacci, because you're not only expecting him to sing so powerfully and so mightily, but also have some moments of tenderness, especially where Tonio's prologue is concerned, and also where Carlo Gerard's Nemico della Patria is concerned. Some well-known exponents include Gian Giacomo Guelfi, Ettore Bastianini, Anselmo Colciani, Gino Becchi, Tito Gobbi, and Giorgio Zancanaro, Silvano Carolli, and lest I forget about Peter Glossop, just to name a few of the Carlo Gerards who have done this role justice. And Roman Burdenko has that sharp edge and that sneering quality about him that I've always admired, but I do feel like he could use a lot more roundness and richness a la Gian Giacomo Guelfi, because what I hear in Roman Burdenko is a sort of voice that reminds me more of a Slavic version of Cheryl Milnes, and I'm saying this to his advantage because he knows how to play and sing all of these anti-heroic roles, and that's what he was able to do. Sometimes it may not be the beefiest voice that I've ever heard, nor is it the roundest or the richest, but what he was able to accomplish in terms of that incision and just providing Carlo Gerard with that bite on some occasions, but also doing his best to add in some nuance, is nothing short of amazing, and his efforts can never ever be eclipsed. So I still have to salute Roman Burdenko for such a fabulous job in embodying Carlo Gerard. And we have the third pivotal lead of this opera, Maddalena di Coigny. Now, Maddalena di Coigny requires a dramatic soprano in the vein of Tosca, Chrysothemis, or Zenta from Der Fliegende Holländer, Freya from Das Rheingold, the Third Norn from Götterdämmerung, Lisa from the Queen of Spades, the Marschallin from the Rosenkavalier, and Ariadne from Ariadne auf Naxos, as well as Helena from the Ägyptische Helena. She needs a voice that can sing over an orchestra, that can sing her high notes with a piercing quality, but also use her chest tones to her advantage. And some of the most renowned singers of Maddalena di Coigny include Maria Callas, Renata Tebaldi, Maria Caniglia, Gena Dimitrova, Montserrat Caballé, and my personal favorite, Lina Bruna Rassa, who was also a renowned Santuzza. There have been so many sopranos, from the spinto to the dramatic side, who have made the role of Maddalena di Coigny her own. And Maria Motologina definitely has the correct vocal size to make Maddalena an exciting character, as well as the correct vocal beauty and youthfulness to also make her sound fresh and young, and those are her greatest assets. She's able to use that lirico spinto soprano voice of hers to make her voice shine and radiate throughout the orchestra and just have a go at making her voice bloom so beautifully. And she's definitely at home in the lirico spinto soprano repertoire, especially with some of her recent engagements as Elisabetta de Valois from Don Carlo and Madame Lidoine from Dialogue du Carmelite. Sure, I do wish that she had a lot more chest voice or used a lot more chest voice at the end of La Mama Morta, because how it was sung, it was kind of sung in a sort of head voice, but not thoroughly committed to having those chest tones in L'Amor. But I can still give her credit where credit is due, in which she was able to make her voice soar throughout the orchestra. She was able to give a lot of feeling to the role, and therefore she was able to just be such a thoroughly winsome singing actress. Then we also have some excellent singing found in the following roles. We got Lucy Baker as a creamy toned Bercy, who was able to provide this character with elegance, charm, and vivacity. Stephanie Wake Edwards was unbeatable as La Contessa di Coigny, all thanks to using her chest voice and being thoroughly committed with it and having such an elegant and regal stage presence that put her on the map, and everything that she's got, she totally rocked it. We even had the honor of having Doris Zoffel providing such a moving, beautifully sung, and absolutely amazing Madelon, in which I would have wanted to have a more contralto-y voice like Fedora Barbieri, but I can't complain because Doris Zoffel remains thoroughly unbeatable and has made the role her own, thus showing that she knew the character inside and out and definitely did such a fabulous job at making Madelon her own. Porrick Rowan was a resonant, handsome, and dashing Roucher. Philippe Yekal was a charismatic Pierre Fleville. Kang Yoon-Shine Lee was absolutely amazing as the Abbe de Chazeux in terms of having his light lyric tenor voice shine throughout the orchestra and just be thoroughly brilliant and have that bel canto way of singing which he was able to nail with pure excellence. Dean Murphy was a virile and resident Mathieu. Burkhard Ulrich was a character from Incroyable. Benjamin Dickerson was virile and handsome as the Major Domo and Dumas. Jared Wehrlein was tall and demanding and handsome as Fouquier Tinville. And Paul Min-hyung-ro was dashing and handsome as Schmidt. So overall, the singing was thoroughly excellent from especially the three main players of Martin Muehle as Andrea, Roman Burdenko as Carlo, and Maria Motolagina as Maddalena. They were all superb stars all the way through, and they really gave it their all. But I have to give it to Martin Muehle for really holding everyone together and for being such an overall trooper and for leading the whole show in terms of his great singing prowess. Equally amazing were Lucy Baker as Bercy, Stephanie Wake Edwards as Contessa di Coigny, Doris Zoffel as Madelon, Porrick Rowan as Roucher, Philippe Yekal as Pietro Feville, Kang Yoon-Shine Lee as the Abbe, Dean Murphy as Mathieu, Burkhard Ulrich as L'Incroyable, Benjamin Dickerson as the Major Domo and Dumas, Jared Wehrlein as Fouquier Tinville, and Paul Min-hyung-ro as Schmidt. Every one of them did so amazingly, and I salute each and every one of them. The conducting done by Michele Gamba was exciting, visceral, and thoroughly engaging. I just felt my breath be totally stuck every time he conducted. That is just how exciting he was as a conductor. I could feel the tension that he was able to provide, all thanks to how he was able to pay not only close attention to detail, but have that sense of urgency about him that made the orchestra shine, wake up, and just do what needs to be done. And therefore, I salute his efforts as a conductor for whipping that orchestra into great shape. And of course, the chorus and the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin were thoroughly amazing and astounding all the way through. Umberto Giordano's Andrea Chenier was such a trip and a half, to the point where I would love to listen to this opera again and again and again. The music is amazing. The production done by John Dew was absolutely eclectic. And I have to give it to all the singers for pulling all the stops in everything that they've done. And for those of you who caught John Dew's production of Umberto Giordano's Andrea Chenier at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what'd you think of it? Did you feel that Martin Muehle, Roman Burdenko, and Maria Motolegina did so amazingly as the three leads? Was there another singer who stole their thunder? Or did you feel like this was not to your liking? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Umberto Giordano's Andrea Chenier at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. Tune in next time for my review of Humperdinck's Hänsel und Gretel, starring Ariana Manganello and Nina Soldovikovna. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!